Al, if there's one thing that I know you are very fond of,
Yeah?
it is the otome.
I love Atome.
What happens when otome is anime? You get atoname.
Atoname. And I watched it. I watched the heck out of it.
Mm-hmm. There was a series that just aired in the past season that was about, hey, what happens if you get sucked into an otome game,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And we're going to talk about it today.
We are.
Here on this week's episode of the Season Language Checkup OVA. It's a podcast where we have conversations about video games, anime, and manga. Hello, I'm Jared, joined as always by the Queen of Otome, Doc Al, and Ladium.
Hello.
This is episode number 187. This episode is going to murder you.
Why?
187.
Oh. Okay.
Thank you. I will be here all week.
I do give a shout out to Hannah because she is the one who told me to watch this. She's like, hey, you like Atome. This anime came out. You should maybe watch it. I'm like, huh, that sounds interesting. And then I got sucked in and, it's just been chaos ever since. Thanks, Hannah. I adore you.
That's how Otome usually works.
It's true. Like, I even have in my phone a calendar notification to buy an Atome game on Thursday that literally says, Thief Atome game, switch, buy that.
That's Al for you.
Can't wait for the Mr. Love anime.
God. Programming note, if you hear things in the background of Al's audio, that's because it is storming. That's what that is. That's what that is. That's it. So just be aware.
Yep.
So this started out as a light novel, which you can read right now in English, some of it.
Yeah, first volume's out.
Became a manga, and then just recently got the anime adaptation. The second volume of that light novel is out today. Well, Tuesday when this comes out.
Yeah, mine's supposed to arrive on Thursday.
Yep. And then more coming out throughout the next
year,
essentially.
Mm-hmm.
This Wikipedia page has dates all the way up through March of 2021 if you want the paperback books.
That's what I'm getting.
If you're an ebook reader, they're already out there. You can read all the way up through volume 7.
Whoa, volume 7.
It's a lot.
I could get ebooks.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
And then if you wanted the manga, you could have up the first 3 volumes right now.
Also ebook?
I don't know. This just says English release date, so I don't know if those are ebooks or physical copies.
I will look when we're finished.
Exactly. So yeah. You watched this basically as it was airing. I had to do a bit of catch up to finish it up.
Mm-hmm. I was basically yelling at you the whole time, like, this is great!
Yes, you were. So this is basically an Otome isekai.
Mm-hmm.
Where the main protagonist gets sucked into a different world, and the world being this Otome game that her friend basically wanted her to play. It sounds
Fortune lover.
Sounds like what would happen to you if you ended up in a different world.
You know what? It really does, and I'd be okay with that.
And basically the main protagonist knows like the story of the game and everything, so she knows the characters and everything.
She's only completed a couple routes.
Yeah, but she knows kind of like
she knows the gist,
general
yes.
beats. And basically she knows that the character she has basically inhabited dies a lot.
Yep.
And is also the villain. Yes. So she has to come up with a plan to basically try and find a way to avoid her death.
Which leads to the super long title of this, which is My Next Life as a Villainess, All Routes Lead to Doom. Is that what the whole title is?
Correct.
And the author of the light novel is like, this is the longest title I think like my publisher has, period.
The literal Japanese translation is, I reincarnated into an Otome game as a villainess with only destruction flags.
Yeah, so I could see why she would say that it's the longest one her publisher
It's a light
had.
novel. It's a light novel title. They're all long. That's just how it is.
Yeah, it's great though. It's a good title.
Mm-hmm.
Which they did a good job translating that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So this has an English dub as well, which you've been watching. It's not fully complete yet because it kind of started in the midst of everything that's going on in the world. So,
yep,
not really going to be cranking those out as quickly as possible. But
it's on like episode 7 or 8, I think.
Episode 8, I believe.
8. Okay.
That's the last one I watched last night. So I watched some of that when I was catching up. That dub seems good.
Yeah, it's a good dub.
Yeah, seems real fun. They capture the spirit of all those characters real well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to watch it that way, that's easily a way to do it. But obviously, it's not finished yet, so you kind of have to wait a little bit. But it is it's a good time.
Pappenbrook going with a deeper voice was a little like alarming for me at first. I was like, "Whoa!" But then I got used to it. Because he also voices the character as a kid too, and I was like, "That's Pappenbrook. That's 100% Pappenbrook." And then like he got to be an adult, and like, wait a minute, Pappenbrook, but deep.
So that seems what they did for everyone is that they just had the English voice actor voice both characters or both versions, while in Japanese there's a lot of change. This person voiced the kid character and this person voiced the adult character.
Yeah, but like Pappenbrook was really great at that because he can do that whole like I'm a kid voice, but then he was also able. You don't hear him do a deep voice very often, so it was new for me. Not new, but it was exciting. Anyway, did a great job. The dub cast is great.
Yeah.
Which I guess we were talking about the Japanese dub cast earlier, and it's got some pretty cool folks in there too.
There's a lot of well-known people if you have watched things that we have also watched. Like there's multiple Code Realize connections to this. There are multiple A Place Further Than the Universe connections in this. Shota Aoi's in this.
Yeah, he is. It's so funny you didn't realize that.
I just for some reason like I thought he might have been, but I didn't know who he would have been.
Yeah.
So like it just went over my head. I was like, oh, he just does the ending for this because that's just sometimes the thing that happens. So
it is. But yeah, like I said, I probably mentioned it like really early on, and you're just like, well, I'm gonna forget that piece of information, right?
Yeah, that's also completely true.
But I could see that you would think like he would voice somebody else because the character that he voices, and we were talking about this before we started recording, it's not a normal type of voice that he does. He's one of the main princes.
Yeah, he's like the main prince.
The main prince, Giordo or Gerald, depending on your translation. Anyway, go ahead. You were talking. I got excited.
Let's talk about this here anime, and there's one thing I want to discuss before we get into all the episodes, and that this show didn't go as like full full otome as I was expecting it to.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that.
I mean, we know there's a second season coming, which I'm very curious of what they're going to do.
Same.
With this, I mean, obviously the novel has
more content.
9 volumes, so like that's a lot of content to pull from. And I don't know how much the anime took from what's already there, so but just from the way the story wraps up, like I'm very curious how they're going to continue forward. But also like going into this, I was like, okay, this is an Otome show, clearly. Like when does the Otome twist happen?
Yep.
And like you could make an argument that at the end it kind of does, but even then it's like it's very kind of brief and just isn't like a whole lot.
It's not very Otome.
Right.
I definitely expected more scenes of like, this is your romance scene and this is your romance scene. But
yeah, also
like they do some of that and then just completely like wreck it for the character because it's a comedy.
Yes.
So like I'm specifically thinking of the time that Jordan was like, hey, let's go hang out by the lake. That'd be cool, right? And then like everybody crashes it and he ends up on the like swan boat, I think, with Keith.
There's also
And
a good moment where like Katarina like sends him like an invitation to meet after school, and he's like, "She never does this. Oh God,
yes,
I need to. Is this what I think it is? I should bring her a gift. I should get her like jewelry or something." But he's like, "Oh wait, no. She would probably rather like garden shears instead." And then he shows up and like everyone else is there. They show him invitations as well. He gives her the garden shears. He's like, "Oh, thanks. I'm glad everyone got me garden shears."
he just like, yep, all
It's like,
right.
oh God.
That was really good. I
Which is
liked that one.
it's definitely a thing to note that Katarina is a complete and utter dumbass.
Yeah, like we joke a lot that Leon S. Kennedy is big dumb energy. Like Katarina is definitely big dumb energy.
And there's literally a scene in the show where like they're like talking about how she couldn't have done something some huge plot that was real evil and stuff. But then they're like, yeah, she couldn't do this. She's stupid. She couldn't organize all this. And she's like, I think they're defending me, but I feel very insulted.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason that people call her Baccarina.
Yes. And also a reason why when people were doing like couple charts for this season, like this show dominated the top 10. Because you literally just put her with everyone and it counts.
Yeah. I mean, it really does because, like, she had scenes with everybody and they're technically all romantic interests of hers. Well, they're romantically interested in her. She is not so much understanding that she is romantically interested in any of them.
She could literally occupy 9 spots on the top 10.
That's hilarious. Amazing.
It's very ridiculous. Well, let's talk about the show.
Mm-hmm.
I will briefly discuss these episodes. These first like 3 or 4 episodes, I won't really remember much because it's been a while since I watched them, and then I took a long break.
Yep.
Which thankfully, like the last episode or the penultimate episode does this like, hey, remember when we were kids and this is what you did for me type thing. I was like, oh, thanks. I'm glad I didn't remember any of this. This is great.
Yeah, some of the early stuff is basically like the first light novel.
Okay. So episode 1 is basically your introduction to everything. Katarina Klaus is a young noble girl. One day bangs her head and recalls memories from her past life in which she was an otaku who died in a traffic accident after staying up all night to play the fortune lover dating sim. It's typical isekai type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
After inadvertently entering an engagement with the young prince Jordo Stewart, Katarina realizes that she is in the world of fortune lover itself, reincarnated as the Villainess, who is doomed to either exile or death regardless of what route players took in the original game. As Katarina begins taking up magic and farming as countermeasures to avoid a doom flag, she acts friendly towards her new adopted younger brother Keith to keep him from becoming lonely and turning out the way he is in the game, which they basically call him like a playboy, essentially.
Yeah, he's a ladies' man.
Katarina tries to get Keith to teach her golem magic, but ends up getting herself injured, leading Keith to feel guilty and trying to isolate himself in his room. However, Katarina goes as far as chopping down his bedroom door with an axe to reach him and properly apologize and give him reassurance. Unfortunately for her, her mother finds out about the broken door and drags Katarina away to scold her while Keith looks on with a warm smile.
Yep. So yeah, she is the original Katarina is like all up in Jordo's business and he's like, oh God, what is going on? She ends up tripping, she falls, she bangs her head, she gets a nice forehead scar, and he's like, oh, well, now I gotta propose to you because you're damaged goods, and like, that's how it goes. And they touch on this a little bit in the anime, but essentially he's using her as like a shield.
Mm-hmm.
That he initially thinks, if I have a fiance, then I can stop these other women from like trying to like get with me.
Yeah.
Which he's like 9, so it's
because
wild.
I mean this is basically a world of like nobility and all that sort of stuff. So like all those fancy type of highfalutin bourgeois type stuff is going on. Arranged marriages, all that sort of stuff. So that's why it's like, oh, here's this 9-year-old proposing to another 9-year-old, and they're like, everyone's like, oh, that's fine, go with it.
Well, and the funny part is that he like proposes to her officially like while she's at the garden, and she's like, huh? Oh yeah, sure. And everyone's like, yay! She's like, wait, what did I do? It's so funny.
Also, like,
Um,
so, like, obviously, Katarina, like, initially is this, like, kind of arrogant, villainous type character, but when, like, she hits her head, she transforms into this other, basically an entirely different character because
yep.
of who takes over her. And then she starts doing all this, like, stuff that's not nobility things. Like, she goes and starts a farm, and everyone's like, why are you starting a farm? Why would you do this? Why would you get your hands dirty? What are you doing? And she's like, I want to do this. This is fun. I like to
Gotta
farm.
gotta avoid my death flags. Everybody's like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, you
Well,
talk real weird now all of a sudden. This is strange, but okay.
and she's like, I want to practice my magic. I've got my earth bump. She's like, well, if I can farm, then I can make a living for myself if I get exiled, and
Yep.
I gotta learn how to like sword fight so I can protect myself. And she ends up making like a book that contains all the information of all the
Mhm.
conquerables
Yeah.
in Fortune Lover, which she uses as a reference.
Like gives her like here's the way to this end route. Here's the other way to end this end route and all that sort of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, I gotta avoid doing this, this, and this, and this, and this to make sure I don't die.
Yeah, and then as you mentioned, Keith also shows up, and his initial story is that Katarina and Katarina's mom are just awful to him, ignore him, don't give him any kind of affection. So he ends up becoming a playboy, and that's how it goes. So she's like, nope, not happening. I'm going to make sure that he is very cared for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and his story is interesting because he has the whole backstory of, and they don't actually use this word in the anime, I don't think, but his mom was a prostitute, and his dad is nobility. And so when he gets brought in at like age 5-ish, something like that, 3, 5, one of those ages, the other siblings bully him, and then eventually when they're like trying to kill some birds or something, he uses earth magic and injures them, and he becomes like labeled a freak by them.
Yeah.
So he is scared of hurting people with his magic, but also is very, very traumatized by bullying. So the original route, I can see how he would be very, very damaged by that. But then this route where Katarina is like, all right,
You're my pal now.
I'm never leaving your side. You're going to be happy all the time. But then she breaks through his door with an axe. And I love it when she's like, Keith, are you by the door? Huh? Get back.
She just goes full shining on that door.
She does. It's so funny. And it's like a really good introduction to like, this is how this character is going to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
She, doesn't make the best decisions, but she's going to make some real rash decisions to make sure that everybody's cared for. Which is fantastic. But I just love that she just takes an axe to his door. It was like, all right. And like he's crying, he's full on crying. She's like, why are you crying? I'm sorry. And he's like, no, I'm happy. It's really, really cute. It's great. He has his little suspenders.
He does have little suspenders.
It's so funny. Anyway, so that's our introduction to this show.
Yep. It's a wild ride. The next episode sees Katarina is invited to a tea party where she meets Mary Hunt, a shy young girl whom she asks for advice on growing her vegetables after noticing Mary's talent with plants and gardening. As the two become friends, Katarina unintentionally uses a line from Fortune Lover that Mary's fiance Jordo's brother Alan was originally supposed to say to her as the beginning of their own love route through the game, causing Mary to pay more attention to Katarina than Alan. The next day, Alan visits the Klaus household and accuses Katarina of seducing Mary. He challenges her to a match, a tree climbing contest as chosen by Katarina. However, he loses every time as Katarina's previous otaku incarnation was an excellent tree climber. To change the tides, as well as wanting the matches to end so as to not be found out by her mother, Katarina suggests a musical competition by which she is blown away after hearing Alan play the piano. Praising his skills, Alan becomes upset when Jordo makes a comment and runs off. As Alan feels inferior compared to Jordo, Katarina notices his talent with the piano, shows him that even Jordo has things that he's bad at, and that Alan should be proud of his own individuality and strength, causing Alan's heart to begin healing.
Also, it's worth mentioning that the whole time throughout every single episode, there's like a council of child
Yes.
Katarinas that meet up. that decide how they're going to avoid the doom flags, and it's fantastic. Like there's the one who's like the judge and has like the gavel and the weird like white mustachy thing, and
Yep.
there's like the smart one, there's the timid one. Like she has all her different facets of personality there. It's like, all right, how are we gonna do this?
It's real good.
And even as she grows up, like they're always still the kid version. It's really really funny. Anyway, so yeah, this is Mary and Alan's episode. Mary has the situation of a different mother than her sisters, which, you know, recurring theme here. And so she's ostracized, and she has her garden that she essentially takes care of, which is different than Katarina's gardening.
Yes.
But Katarina wants advice on how she gardens, and she's like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah, she like Katarina has to like go to the bathroom because she overeats or something.
Yep.
And she like stumbles upon seeing this garden and Mary there, and she's like, "Yo, how do you get your stuff to grow like this? This is amazing!" And Mary's just like, "What? What?"
And then drops the line, and then later on realizes she's like,
Like,
"Oh,
ah,
that was Alan's line. Oh no,
I goofed."
And Alan, as a 9-year-old, coming in mid like, "Why are you seducing my fiance?" is so funny. It's so funny.
It's real good.
And he's like, "All right, we're gonna throw down. Let's do this." And you know, there's the whole aspect of nobility doesn't really climb trees. Like she's been yelled at a lot for doing that. And so he just like fails miserably every time, but he keeps coming back and like challenging her and challenging her and challenging her. And this is where they start their relationship of sorts, like their friendship is they just chat while he's challenging her and failing miserably. Which then we also learned the weakness of Giordo is that he is scared of snakes.
Get a lot of good toy snake gags.
Yep, which that is another thing that Katarina comes up with is she's like, well, to avoid a doom flag with Giordo, I just need to keep a toy snake in my pocket. So if he tries to murder me, I can just throw that at him and run. I'm just like, oh my God. And so she works with the gardener to keep making more realistic toy snakes throughout her life. And so she has like a very, very realistic one as a teenager.
I love that. I mean, this is obviously getting way to the end, but like the end gag for the entire series is that her toy snakes are now being sold in stores.
Yeah, it's great.
I was like, wow. Wow.
So yeah, Alan realizes like, oh yeah, okay, so he's not perfect. I just thought he was perfect. And also I'm friends with you now. So that makes me feel better. And so now we have Mary and we have Alan in the fold, and eventually we'll have Mary trying to thwart Alan having feelings for Katarina. Yeah. But not for the reasons why you would originally think.
No. So now we go to episode 3, where at a tea party hosted by Giordo and Alan, Katarina comes to the aid of the beautiful Sophia Asgard, finding she has read one of her favorite romance novels. Thrilled to have found a companion to share in her love for reading, just like in the book of the Emerald Princess. Katarina quickly befriends the timid girl, coming over to Katarina's house alongside her brother Nicole. Another love interest from Fortune Lover. Sophia is delighted when Katarina compliments her appearance, which is often insulted by others, and asks to be her friend. Katarina then spends the day at Sophia's house, where she meets the siblings' parents and learns about some of Nicole's charms. Noticing Nicole's love for his family, something overlooked by others, Katarina delightfully praises it, causing Nicole to open up to her and genuinely smile for the first time. 7 years later. As Katarina turns 15, she prepares to enter the Magic Academy, which is where the main story of Fortune Lover begins.
So yeah, Sophia, I think she's kind of implied to be like albino, because she has the red eyes and like white hair. But anyway, she's different from everybody else, and so everybody's like, "Ooh, we don't need to be around her." And Nicole's very protective of her because of that, and you know, she's scared of people. She doesn't want to be around them. understandably. And then Katarina comes up and is like, yo, you like this book? Also, you're beautiful and I love your hair. And she's like, oh, okay. Are you kidding? Is this real? And so when they realize that they both love the same series, which at one point they have the one that's the princess one, but then they have the like devilish count one that they really are into, and that one's important later. But yeah, Nico's funny because they're all like, yeah, the dude like never smiles ever. And that becomes a recurring joke as well, is that like he never smiles.
He never smiles and like just barely talks.
Barely talks.
He'll like if anyone like says anything or like has to like say something in agreement, like everyone in the group does, he'll just like it'll eventually get to him and he'll just be like, nod.
Nod. And so Katarina essentially wins him over. She thinks that she screws up real bad because she's like, yeah, you're so lucky. You have like a really pretty sister and your family's so sweet, because their parents take her aside before they hang out and like, you know, we really appreciate you coming over, hanging out with her. Like, this really means a lot to us. She's like, oh my God, I love you guys. And so when she says that to Nico, like he gets in his head and is like, yeah, you know, that's what I've always thought. I've always thought that I was very, very lucky, but no one agreed with me. And then finally this girl's agreeing with me. You're wonderful. And so, you know, we have two more in the fold here.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, now we're going to high school, technically magic school, but 15, you know.
And we gotta meet a certain someone, a certain protagonist. So episode 4, upon enrolling at Magic Academy, where Fortune Lover is said, Katarina becomes concerned about Maria Campbell, the main heroine of the game, who is allegedly already forming relationships with the boys. As Katarina spends time at the student council and gets to know Maria, she steps in to protect her for some bullies when Maria brings in sweets she made herself. Katarina later realizes that in the original game, it was she who bullied Maria, and Jordo who comes to Maria's rescue, which is what begins their romance route. However, since Katarina stole Jordo's event, it seems the route is taking a unique turn. So yeah, like the entire time, even going up to this, she's like, I have to figure out a plan for when I eventually meet the main protagonist. Like, I need to know what to do. And like, they eventually get there, and then like all the guys are like, yeah, we met this strange girl and all this sort of stuff.
It's like magic. That's kind of different.
And like, she Keith talks about this, and she literally pulls him like, are you in love with her? He's like, love? What do you mean? He's like, are you in love with her? He's like, no.
Just met her.
She also scores high on like their exams, and she does better than Alan. And she's like, are you concerned about her scoring higher than you? And he's like, no, I don't really care. That's cool.
Because that's what
score higher than me.
Their romance in the game.
And then eventually she's just like, oh, I should probably just go find her and figure out what this girl's about. Figure out who she's gonna try and get with. And then just like they have sweets in the student council's room because like everyone in the friend group becomes part of the student council. So she just hangs out there all the time. Yeah, because she's too low on the exam board. She was average. They start talking about sweets, and she's like, "Oh, do you make sweets?" And then she's like, "Oh God, I probably insulted her. I thought I was like, you should make sweets for me." And Maria's like, I do. I just haven't had anyone say they wanted me to make sweets. And she's like, oh, make me sweets.
I love sweets.
So she makes some sweets, and then some girls bully her, and then Katarina's like, hey, knock that off. I'll beat you up. And then she starts like eating all of the sweets that were on the ground, and Maria's like, why would you do that? They're dirty. She's like, oh, they're grass on them. It's fine.
They're delicious.
Second roll.
And then she realizes like, oh, I just stole Jordo's flag.
Yeah. Because he just shows up at the end and is like, hey, what's going on, guys? It's like, oh, it's nothing. We're cool. We're cool now.
I just love she's eating them up to the ground. Like, yeah, it's fine.
These are so good.
I love sweets. Oh, I stored it.
Good.
No, take it out.
No, it's going to stay.
No.
Let's talk about episode 5.
Okay.
While seeking to become closer with Maria, Katarina once again saves her from being bullied, this time unintentionally stealing a major romantic scene with Keith, or from Keith. While visiting a farm on her day off with Keith, Katerina decides to visit Maria's hometown where she meets Maria's mother. Remembering how Maria experienced severe loneliness in her childhood due to false rumors about being a noble's illegitimate child, her mother is relieved to find she has found a true friend in Katerina. Katerina's mother, on the other hand, is less than pleased to see Katerina after finding out she had been secretly running a farm or school and prepares to scold her, much to Katerina's dismay. So yeah, she's basically made a new farm at the school.
At the school, yep.
And everyone's just like, what are you doing?
It's like, I have to keep up my skills.
Yes. And everyone's just like, oh god. So yeah, like the girls were eventually like, they're talking and they're like, hey, we should go hang out, all of us, on our day off. And Maria's like, oh, I go back and visit my parents on my days off. And they're like, oh, that's fine. We'll figure out another way to do this. And then Katerina is off with Keith and they're doing some stuff. And eventually they find their way into Maria's hometown and like, we should go visit her. And they're like, okay, cool. And then some like people show up and are like, oh, you know Maria? Did you know? Is it true? Do you know who her real father is? And Katerina's about to like beat him up, and Keith's like, oh, whatever, goodbye. We have places to be. He's like, you probably don't need to go beat them up. And she's like, but I could.
Also, I don't remember what flag she stole from Keith.
I don't either.
I don't remember that. Anyway, so yeah, she goes to see where Maria lives and offers to help with her farm.
Yeah, she sees the derelict farms like, oh, I know what I can do here. She's like the Birdman gif, rubbing hands. But yeah, like they go in because Maria's not there and her mom talks with her and Katerina's like, oh yeah, like she's great. She makes us sweets and everything. They're amazing. It's real great. And like her mom's just like taken back, like, you guys serious about this? And like, yeah.
And then we get the flashback.
Like, yeah, we'd see like all that Maria's gone through, like how she tried to make sweets for her friends at old school, and they all just like turned her back on them and didn't do that. And then she came back home crying, and her mom couldn't even console her because she was also dealing with things at the same time, so she didn't know how to handle it.
Traumatized from making sweets and put the cookie cutters away, and yeah, they kept saying that she was the illegitimate child of some noble because like.
She has light magic. Light magic doesn't come to commoners like very often. It's like very rare.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Big rumors and all.
Yes. But Maria comes home and like starts making Mary comes home and starts making sweets. No, Maria. In words. She starts making sweets and like Katerina's like, hey, I'm gonna go fix up your garden real quick.
Come on.
I'll be right back.
BRB.
And she's like, you just see her out the window, just like redoing the entire garden. She's like, yeah, I bought some seeds. You guys want some seeds? I can get you all set up. It's fine. And then like Maria's mom like goes and finds those cookie cutters she like hid and uses them with Maria, and they make sweets and. They're all good, and they go home. Katerina and Keith go home and like, hey, we should go see our parents. And they're like, yeah, let's do it. And Keith's like, but wait, you're dressed. And she's like, whatever. And then they show up, and Katerina's mom's like, so I heard at the Lady Society a certain someone's made a farm at school. Katerina's like, oh god.
Whoops.
It's real goofy.
It's a really funny episode. I mean, like, it's also really serious and like puts a lot of characterization on Maria, but like at the same time, just like, hey, can I do your farm? Like, oh my god.
Oh man.
Also, I'm gonna fight you guys.
The next episode has the scene you talked about where they go to the lake. During summer vacation, Jordo plans to take also this is all set up as like Katerina's summer vacation.
Yeah, it's got like the little like crayon drawings in between.
It's real good.
It's really funny.
Jordo plans to take Katerina with him to the lake for a date, but Katerina, misunderstanding the situation, ends up inviting everyone else along too. Where they do like boat races and all this sort of stuff.
Boat races, and like at one point she's eating sweets and a goose steals it and she like runs off with it but lifts her skirts, and Keith's like, sister, no, you gotta be cognizant of who you're lifting your skirt around.
Later, Katerina goes shopping with Sophia and Nicole, where Katerina's taken aback by Nicole's sudden advance. He gets up in her face and is like, I'm happy to be by your side. She's like, whoa.
Did she pass out?
She passes out like next to a fountain. Everyone's like, what happened?
I think this is maybe the first time that she compares him to the Devilish Count.
Might be.
Because they're buying the newest book in that series when they're out shopping, and she's like, he's the Devilish Count. But yeah, she passes out because he's like super close, and
she can't handle it.
He's actually talking.
Afterwards, Katarina joins Mary in attending a piano recital by Alan, which is hinted at that Alan has feelings towards Katarina, which he is oblivious about due to Mary's interference. He also like comes up to her one day. He's like, "Hey, they want me to do a piano recital. Should I do it?" And she's like, "Yeah, dude, do it." He's like, "Oh, okay. I guess are you gonna come?" He's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, I guess I'll do it then."
Oh.
He like names the song like "My Feelings for You" or something like that.
Yeah, and she's like, "Oh wow, wonder who that's about. Maybe Mary."
Prime dummy.
So prime. I was gonna say that earlier in the lake part, Katarina mentions Nicole smiling more, and everybody's like, "Wait, what?"
Who are you talking about?
And then like they look at him, and he's just like straight faced. They're like, "No, look, he's got a little bit of grin." They're like, "What?" Anyway, continue on.
Katarina then tries to finish her summer homework before school resumes, as she has left everything for the last day of vacation, as she would think.
Keith is like, "Why?
There's nothing here." As she falls asleep that night, she has memories of a friend she spoke to in her previous life.
It's a friend.
It's her friend, because she's been basically kind of getting memories here and there, but it's like, I don't know what this is. What is this? I don't remember.
Yeah,
that
like she remembers that she played the game, but she doesn't
Yes.
remember much about herself. And
Yeah.
so she eventually picks up some memories of herself, and also, I think they call her like Achan or Achan. I forget what they call her.
That's the friend.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like
Yeah.
that's the memory, because the Katarina in her previous life does not actually have a name. She's never given a name.
And like you don't see her, they don't show her face until like maybe this next episode, or like when she's like really starts to remember, like, or when you start to like get the backstory of like what happened to her.
Yeah, her face is normally covered by like wild hair.
Yeah. Which let's talk about that next episode, which delves into some interesting things.
Okay.
Sophia has a dream about Atsuko Sasaki, Katarina's friend in the real world, who became really good friends with Katarina and was very saddened by her sudden death. Thus, she makes a wish that when it is her turn to die, she would like to live her next life as Katarina's friend. Which I thought was real interesting, that like they would give all this backstory and like tell you like how Katarina like eventually died, like Achan gave her the fortune lover and was like, hey, you should play this game, and how they became friends and all this sort of stuff. And like how
her last text message was about how she was having a hard time conquering the sadistic prince, and she stayed up all night.
Yeah. And that then eventually like it leads all the way through her funeral and everything. But then like it like cuts to Sophia waking up from the dream, and I was like, oh,
yep,
this is good.
Yep. I was like, oh, they're going that route, huh?
Like, that's real cool.
It's real cool.
As part of their practical exams, everyone is tasked with entering a dangerous dungeon for a magic stone, with Katarina on a team of Jordo, Keith, and Sophia. They're in the chaos of one of the dungeon's traps, which Katarina sets off by accident. A lot of them she does. Katarina ends up falling down into a hidden passage where unknowingly she finds the magic stone while harvesting mushrooms, because of course. Guided by Nicole's wind magic, Sophia comes to Katarina's rescue, where she almost falls off a cliffside, upon which they are both saved by a mysterious whirlwind. As the rest of the group joins them, Maria notices a dark presence clinging to Katarina. Go ahead.
I was gonna say this one's funny because like Jordo and Keith are basically arguing the whole time about like how to deal with her being stupid throughout this.
Yes.
Like at one point. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say at one point she like triggers an arrow trap, and George's like, I got this, and sets everything on fire, and then they keep coming, and Keith's like, I got this, and does a golem so it'll block everything, and I'm just like, you guys are so funny.
There was a scene where like she feels like she's not helping, so they're like, she's like, wait guys, there's a hole in the path, I got this, and like she does a little earth magic, it's like and like it pans out and just shows like it's just a tiny little like hole in the floor.
So funny.
And she's like, oh, I did it. And then like she just makes a step forward and activates another trap.
Immediately trips. It's amazing.
It's really
so
good.
funny. She's like, oh, earth bump, go. So funny. She's such an idiot.
So we get a few big things in this episode. We get the darkness surrounding Katarina.
We get the shadow who sent the whirlwind because
Mm-hmm.
she asked Sophia if she did that, and she's like, no.
Yeah.
Because Sophia and Nicole both have wind magic.
So we know there's some other force of something at play here, which I had a theory about who this was going to be, and it did not come true, but I don't think that the possibility of it has the door hasn't been shut on it.
I'm interested to hear who your theory is.
We'll get to that when we finish up this series, but
Okay.
let's talk about the next episode.
Okay.
While studying the library, Katarina and several others get sucked inside a magic book. Mary and Maria, who witness everything, try to figure out how to rescue everyone and find that the only way to free them is to let one of them fulfill their desires within the book world. Unfortunately, Mary's unable to let them play out their stories to the end since they all involve everyone hitting on Katarina.
Mary gets so jealous.
She just keeps shutting. It's like, no, I can't look at it.
It's so funny though, because like they all have very intricate scenarios. Like Jordo's on their wedding night, and he like at one point she trips backwards, and he does this like smooth move where he like throws his wine glass and then catches her, and then the wine glass falls back in his hand, not spilling a drop. And
all the while Katarina is just oblivious to what's happening.
Oblivious. And then my favorite though is that Alan's just like playing the piano, and like Katarina's standing there, and later on when they get out of the book, which they're gonna get out of the book, but he's just like, what? I was just playing piano. What was going on?
My favorite was Nicole's, because he just dresses up as Tuxedo Mask.
Tuxedo Mask! I loved that
I was
one.
like, amazing.
It was straight up just Sailor Moon. That's what was
happening. It really
happening.
was.
Like, they even had the whole scene like in front of the moon. It was wild.
Shot for shot.
Yeah, they were playing it up as like he's the devilish count.
But it's like, no, dog, you're just Tuxedo Mask.
You're Tuxedo Mask. Like, literally, that's just Tuxedo Mask. And the scenes are just straight out of Sailor Moon. It's
really good.
Hilarious. I love that one.
It's really good.
And also the way that he gets the people to leave them alone as he smiles at them. And they're so stunned by his smile.
Yep.
That he's able to run off.
It's real good.
This is good.
Realizing that none of the stories have involved Katarina's desire, the two let a scenario play out in which Katarina gets to eat as many sweets as she wants, a desire that proves too much for the book to contain, freeing everyone as a result.
She can never get enough food. And so the book's like, oh god, I don't remember what Keats was.
Probably just something that involved her.
Yeah, well, guaranteed, but
yeah, I don't recall either.
Oh, and Sophia cabadons her.
Yeah.
Which is funny because Sophia's tiny, and she just like straight up cabadons her in the library, and it was like, all right, you know what, fine, that's great. But yeah, the book cannot handle how much Katarina wants sweets.
It's true. In the aftermath, Alan, whose story was the only one not read as a result of Mary not wanting wanting him to realize his feelings, finds Katarina playing outside and joins her. They share an intimate moment as they sit atop a tree to look at the sunset, but is cut short when Mary finds them and runs towards them to prevent anything from happening. Which I think is like Katarina like takes her shoes off and is like, I want to just walk barefoot in the grass.
And he's like, nobles don't do that.
And she's like, no, you should try it. And he's like, oh, this is all right. And then she's like, hey, I'm in a tree.
He climbs
like,
up.
Why
and
are you in
like,
a tree?
Close to each other, their faces are close to each other, they're looking into each other's eyes.
And Barry's like, no,
I worked so hard to make sure you don't realize this. But yeah, I just think it's so funny that when he gets out, he's like, what, I was just playing piano. What
are you talking about? Next up we have a slumber party. As Katarina and the girls hold a slumber party to celebrate passing their exams, her maid Anne Shelley notices everyone's feelings towards Katarina that Katarina herself is oblivious of.
Yep.
A flashback reveals how Anne, the daughter of Baron and his maid, was scarred in a fire that took her mother's life and was deemed unfit for marriage by her father. Upon joining the Klaus family, she originally tried to act as merely a tool until Katarina's personality changed following her accident, after which she learned to be herself thanks to Katarina's kindness. When Anne's father tried to marry Anne off, Katarina stood up to him and convinced him to call the marriage off and let Anne stay by Katarina's side. On another day, Jordo has high expectations upon receiving a fancy invitation from Katarina when he discovered she had invited everyone to help harvest her crops. In the after credits, when winter arrives and Katarina is confronted by someone who claims she will expose her evil deeds.
Evil deeds.
Yes, like she invites everyone, like, it's Harvest Day, guys, and they're like,
The Anne story is actually really interesting, and that's covered in the first light novel as well. So I was wondering if that would even come up, and then it came up here. I was like, oh, good, because it's a really tragic story the way that it's told. But then you realize like how much Katerina, in her changed form, means to Anne. Like she has to deal with all her shenanigans. She was there when she chopped down the door with an axe. But like she genuinely cares for her and cares like what happens to her, and like that's not a relationship you always see. But it also shows that like Katerina is really influencing not just these love interests, but like people around her in general. She's making their lives better, which is great.
Yeah.
And also like the marriage was called off with a creepy dude because Katerina's like, no, she's mine.
And then like her dad shows up and is like, hey, we should have a chat.
Sit down. Which I think he's higher rank, so
Probably, yeah. It was also like, hey, let's not be a weirdo, my dude.
Yeah, he was gonna like marry her off to like an absolute creep.
Katerina's like, no,
I need her.
I'll fight you.
I mean, basically, it was like 9-year-old Katerina at that point, like, no.
Basically, yeah. But yeah, then our cliffhanger is that someone's be like, hey, you've done evil stuff, and Katerina's like, huh? Which let's dive into that.
All right.
Mimicking the judgment event from the game where she is trialed for her crimes, Katerina is accused of bullying Maria, but Maria and the others vouch for her innocence, claiming her unfit to devise such a grand scheme, which results in them also slightly insulting her in the process. This is where they're like, no, wait, she couldn't have done this. She's an idiot.
Yeah.
She has no way of doing all of this.
She's like, I feel happy because you're defending me, but also this sucks because you're
Yes.
calling me dumb.
Although Katerina is relieved that she has evaded a major doom flag, Maria goes missing after investigating a dark aura coming off of the instigators. 3 days later, Jordo discovers that the list of evidence the instigators used against Katerina wasn't actually written by them, and that they themselves have no memory of why they accused her. He suspects that they were being manipulated by dark magic, with Maria's ability to detect it, leading to her capture. That night, Katerina has a dream where all her friends die and is unable to sleep. Fatigued the next morning, she takes a rest in the infirmary. As she walks back to the class, Katerina sits down on a bench and reminisces her first time meeting Maria. However, her thoughts are interrupted when the student council president Sirius finds her, which I wanted the whole thing of like the stuff that they had been written out for her. I wanted that to be like an FAQ of the game.
That would have been great.
That would have been very
like
good.
Her like spark notes basically of the game.
Yeah.
That would have been really funny.
Recalling what her friend Achan said in her past life about a hidden character from the game who possessed dark magic, Katerina soon realizes that the true culprit is the student council president Sirius Deke, who declares his hatred towards Katerina and puts her into a slumber with his dark magic. Which, I don't know if you picked this up or not, because you made mention to me that you kind of figured that this was the guy who's going to be the hidden route character.
Yeah.
But when he first shows up, the music immediately starts getting like weirdly distorted.
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Like it's very like off, and like it immediately gives you a feeling of like off-putting, and like something is very wrong.
In this episode or
in this episode, it's immediately
Okay,
like when he shows up and is like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Okay, I'll have
like
to
the music
rewatch
starts like it gets weird, and it's like it's a very good touch. It's like immediately I was like, "Oh, this is it. This is the dude."
Yeah, it's mentioned very, very early on in a flashback that, like at one point, Achan's like, "Oh yeah," and then there's this one round of this secret character they have to do this. She's like, "No spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers." And I was like, "Oh, secret route, huh?"
Which I don't remember when that is, so like I didn't really remember that, or maybe I just completely glossed over it when I was rewatching all these episodes.
Yeah.
So like, I remember them talking about it in this episode.
I don't remember which episode it was in, but they mentioned it earlier. But yeah, it's like that's the dude. He's gonna be a route. I know he's gonna be a route.
Which it makes sense as well, because like he shows up. He's on screen enough that he has to mean something.
Yeah.
And like he's just very non-assuming. So like,
And I've played enough Atome.
Yeah.
I know if this dude's gonna show up, he's gonna be a route. Like,
Yeah.
Especially like he's around her too much. He's in the circle. He's gonna be a route. So yeah, we get this dark dude who puts her to sleep.
And basically he uses dark magic, but like the last visage of him that she sees is like he is like crying as he's putting her to sleep.
Yeah.
And she's like, there's something very wrong here. Like, he's not doing this out of like ill will or of malice. Like, something is clearly forcing him to do this, or there's something else at play here. Which is where we end up in the penultimate episode. While remaining unconscious, Katarina's mind is trapped in a world resembling her previous life as an otaku. Realizing that she could die if she remains in an eternal sleep, everyone tries their best to wake up Katarina to no avail. Which they basically like they have all these doctors come in, and like the doctor's like, I have no idea what's happening. She's just asleep. She could wake up any moment. She could stay asleep forever. Who knows? Which also kind of leads you into like everyone kind of splits off and does their own thing, and they have all these like this like internal like flashback of like, here's what Katarina means to me. Like, here's what she has done for me, which is also a great way to get these flashbacks to things you don't remember.
Yep.
But like it's a really well done part of the episode, because like you get to see like how much of an impact Katarina's had on literally everyone.
Yeah. It's really well done. Isn't there like a part where like Giordo gives her water though? It's kind of weird.
He gives her water like mouth to mouth. I'm like, God, dude, that's gross. You're giving her backwash. Nasty.
I mean, it happens in Xenoblade as well, so I guess it's like a thing that people do, but like I'm pretty sure there are other methods to get liquid.
Like Anne was trying to do it by like this little like, I don't know, like a fancy water thing, and like it wasn't doing anything, and she's like freaked out and dropped it. That's when Giordo comes in and does that.
Yeah, I was like, all right, buddy, you do your thing, I guess.
The back half of this episode is where everything gets real interesting.
Yep.
So as Giordo and the others lament on how they feel about Katarina, Sophia, revealed to be Atsuko's reincarnation, hears her voice and goes to Katarina's side, so Atsuko can reach her inside the dream world and guide her back to the world she belongs to. Going off Atsuko's parting words, Katarina learns where Maria is being hidden and goes off with the others to rescue her and confront Deke. So yeah, like Sophia keeps hearing like this voice inside her, and then realizes like she looks into like a window and sees the reflection of Atsuko, and is like, oh God, that's me. That's who I am. That's why I'm here.
It's so cool.
It's so good. And then like you see the two of them like in an empty classroom, they're talking, and then basically Atsuko's like, you're not supposed to be here, are you? And like that like is like the trigger to have Katarina like her memories come back and everything, and then she's able to finally say goodbye to Atsuko, because she couldn't do that obviously because she died in a traffic accident. Man, I was not expecting this episode to be as emotional as it was. Like, holy
it hits hard.
I was like, oh, look at this dumb comedy show, ha ha ha. Oh God, I'm crying.
I mean, that's basically how I was when I was like watching the show. I'm like, oh my God.
Like it hits hard.
This makes me feel things.
She also learns like one of the last things that Atsuko says to her is that, hey, the student council president's name is not what you think it is. It's this. Which they don't say in the episode quite yet, but we will eventually find that out. So yeah, they go off to confront this dude, and that's where we get the finale episode.
He's like in a shed.
He's in a shed surrounded by candles, and like it looks like there's all this graffiti on the wall, and I thought some of them looked like, and I was like, whoa! I was like, oh wait, that's just scribbles.
I didn't even notice that. I have to rewatch that too.
If this was an American show, they would have been all penises.
I mean, yeah.
Sirius, whose real name is revealed to be Raphael Walt, explains how I don't know how to pronounce this word.
I don't know how to help you.
Let's go copy and search me on this Google. I mean, it's the Marquez,
Oh, Marquise.
Marquise, but I don't know why it's. I don't know.
Is
We'll
it
go with
like
the
the feminine?
Marquise.
Is it the feminine Marquise?
And it's currently in Spain, the rank of Marquise Marchines. It's like I guess the female version of it.
Okay, yeah.
I just
It
don't know how to pronounce it.
essentially it's the lady version of Marquise. We'll just call it that.
All right. The lady version of Marquise Deke had a mage kill his mother to acquire dark magic in order to do a ritual to transfer the real Sirius, whose body was diagnosed with incurable disease and had not much time to live, mind and memories into Raphael's body. His mother died.
She gets shanked.
Before murdering the mage to keep him quiet. Gaining dark magic alongside Sirius's memories while still retaining his own, which he basically says like, yeah, they didn't give me his memories. They just gave me like the information he had. It didn't like make me become that dude. Raphael swore to get revenge on the one who killed his mother. Reminded of his mother's kindness thanks to Katarina's help, Raphael learns that the true dark magic was the mage that possessed him following his death and finally manages to drive him out. Afterwards, Raphael leaves the school to atone for his sins while the lady version of the Marquise Deke is brought to justice.
I think he actually technically gets expelled, but
He basically is like, I'm going to go to the authorities and tell them what happened.
yeah.
At the second-year graduation party, the setting of the final event of the game, where Marie is supposed to confess to one of the romance interests, Katarina finds herself greeted with what she believes is to be a friendship ending, remaining oblivious that she's actually the focus of a reverse harem ending. So like the entire time she's like, who's she going to? She like keeps an eye on her the entire time.
She's like, Maria, who do you like?
Who's she going to talk to? And like, you see Jordo and Alan have like a music. They do a music performance. He's like, "This doesn't happen in the game. Something's weird. She's not going to anyone."
She literally a few times goes up to Maria, like throughout the show, and is like, "Who do you like? Who do you have a crush on?" She's like, "Well, I'd like to be by your side." And she's like,
and then like at the end there, she literally goes like, "Hey, who do you like?" And she's like, "Oh, I really like you, Katarina." He's like, "No, I mean that's real nice, but which boy do you like?" And Maria's like, "None of them." And Katarina's like, "Huh?" Like, I want to be by your side. And then everyone comes up, "Well, I want to be by your side. I want to be by your side." And then Katarina's just like, this is the friendship ending.
Yeah, friendship
like,
ending.
Oh God.
What an idiot.
And then we end with Raphael joining the Department of Magic and becoming another one of Katarina's admirers. Katarina looks forward to a life that goes beyond what is covered in Fortune Lover.
Da, da, da.
I really hope they basically try and make the premise of the second season like, oh, by the way, Fortune Lover got a fan disc.
Oh, man. That'd be great.
That'd be really good. All right, so here's my theory of what I thought was happening in this series or season. Okay. But I think there's still a possibility that it could be a thing that happens later on.
Tell me.
Where's the real Katarina? I feel like if you wanted to go completely weird Otome, the real personality of Katarina shows back up to cause harm to new Katarina.
That's interesting, because whose body would she be in?
That's a good question. Like that's definitely a thing you'd have to figure out. But like, I thought the whole time this thing was happening, like you see like the shadowy figure, like the real Katarina's back and is going to try and take vengeance on Katarina and like get her body back or something. Like I think you could still do that. It's just like you have to figure out like what body is she in, how did she like where does she go when she gets kicked out. But like I think that would be an interesting wrinkle to everything.
It would. I mean, like they have doppelgangers having a Mr. Love right now, so like why not? What
if it's just it's just Katarina again? Like it just looks like Katarina. And it throws everyone for a loop. Like, why is Katarina acting so different?
Why is she being a jerk? My question on this is, like, I thought that it was probably Raphael because we knew that he was there. He was serious at that point. He was real serious. We knew that he was there because he was steering council president, and like him and Nico were both there to make sure that nothing horrible went wrong.
Right.
So we know that it was him. But it was like a big whirlwind. I was like, is that black magic? Like once they revealed that he was a black mage?
Yeah, that seems real strange. Also, like, why would he save her?
Well, I think like there's obviously conflicted feelings with her.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't hate her.
So, like, would you think as well, like, he would, because, like, the way they describe it is, like, everyone has, like, a base, what's the word I'm looking for?
Element?
Base element for their magic. So maybe he has, like, wind magic to begin with, but then he has the dark magic on top of that.
That's possible. Like, maybe he with wind magic and then dark magic's what he got after the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
That's possible.
I think that's the only thing that makes sense, unless there's another person at play here. But
Yeah,
I feel like that would be kind of complicating things a little bit.
I really think it was him in that situation.
It would have to be.
Yeah.
Because the dark magic would have to be, like, he would probably have to be around for it to, like, kind of, like, be after her.
Right, because Maria sees the dark magic after that part around Katarina. So it has to be him. And so what I'm wondering is, like, maybe your idea is right that he naturally had wind magic, but then, like, maybe the dark magic has been able to amplify it. Because that was
entirely a possibility.
Big whirlwind.
Mm.
That was a big one. And
It's
I mean,
enough to,
even
like, throw her up from falling.
Even her, like, even Nicole and Sophia together with their wind magic didn't pull off anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, he's obviously very talented with magic, but also, like, holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's an interesting theory of her coming back at some point.
I think it would be, like I feel like that's an Otome kind of thing.
It's definitely an Otome thing.
And also, like, it would be an interesting plot point for, like, a second season or further along.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, it's kind of a thing that, like, I mean, I'm not really, like, a big fan of the isekai genre, per se.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know if this is a thing in other shows or other shows have, like, attempted to look at this. But, like, what happens to the original personality when this new person kind of comes in and takes everything over?
Right.
Like, where does that go?
That's a solid question.
Because you would think, like, in other kinds of media, like, you would just do, like, a swap. But if you're swapping
with a dead person,
like, what happens?
I also want to know what happened to Achan, because, like, I don't think she's dead, but she basically reincarnated into Sophia.
But I mean, we don't know how much time has passed.
That's true. We don't know how much time has passed, so maybe she is dead.
Because, like, when Katarina goes into her dream world, everything's fine and she's alive and everything. So, but also, like, I think they, at least these recaps mention that, like, Achan's goal, like, dream was to, like, whenever she dies, she gets to be reincarnated and be Katarina's friend again. So, like, it's possible, like, a giant amount of time has passed.
Mm-hmm.
And also, we're going into a different world, so, like, the rules and logic of time
don't
are
apply.
Literally whatever you want.
That's true.
Also, I like the idea that this entire series is literally, like, taking a look at, like, the idea of canon.
Mm-hmm.
And just being like, if you want to just say canon and do whatever you want, make a story of whatever you want with the characters from this series that you like, and just do whatever you want with them, go ahead.
Yeah.
Who's stopping you?
I love it.
Like, that's a really fun, just, like, hidden meaning that you might not necessarily pick up on.
Right. One thing we didn't mention that I think is really funny about the series and has to do with Sophia is that they're kind of, like, leaning on the idea of the trope of, like, oh, hey, these siblings, like, might have a crush on each other type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Katarina's like, oh man, she really loves her brother, like, a lot. And Sophia is the rival character in Nicole's route. But what she's actually doing is Sophia is trying to, like, talk up Nicole so that, like, Katarina will pick him.
She's the ultimate wingman.
She's such the ultimate wingman. And so I'm wondering, like, was Achan maybe, like, potentially that is her favorite, or, like, how is that going? But
well, if you think about it, like, this is the route that Katarina never was able to get through.
Right.
So maybe it's basically her, like, being like, I'm going to get you through this route finally. I'm going to let you see this dude finally.
It's just so funny because she's like, hey, my brother, he's real smart and he's great and he does all these things. She's like, oh man, she really loves her brother.
And she's like, oh. And, like, Sophia to Nicole was like, I got you.
Yep. She is
gonna help
ultimate
you out.
man. There's also this great scene I think it's probably in the third episode where everybody's dancing with Katarina when she turns 15, as like her coming of age ceremony thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Giorno like smooches her on the neck. And then Keith immediately comes up and starts like rubbing it. He's like, bug bit you. I gotta get rid of this. And I forget who, it might have been Alan who came up next and was like, so your neck's a little red. What's going on with that? She's like, oh, I think a bug bit me or something. It's really funny. I just love Keith coming up with a like handkerchief, like, nope, bug. And Katarina's like, you gotta watch out for the bugs. Apparently they're around here. Who knew?
It's real dumb. It's real good.
I was like, how do you? You're an idiot. I love it. I love this show so much. Also, because you know that I'm gonna bring it up, I always do. The opening and the ending are bomb.
They're really good.
They're really good. Both of them are amazing. Which we already mentioned earlier that Shota Aoi does the ending theme, Bad End. Also the music video for that is killer. It's insane. He's so beautiful, and he also plays a woman in it. Like it's so unfair. He's beautiful as a man and he's beautiful as a woman, and like no one should be allowed to be that pretty. No one. It's so unfair. And like I'm attracted to him as both. I'm like, you're an attractive ass woman and you're an attractive ass man, and I'm just like, all right, well, I guess he's just gonna make me a bio disaster. I don't know. What's going on here? But also the opening is just really, really fun. Like the animation of it's fun. The song's fun.
Yeah, Angela does a really good job of openings a lot of times.
Really good job. Like knocks it out of the park. So, that was fun. Like
there's a part in that opening where it literally cuts to the.
Yep.
But I was like, that's perfect.
It's perfect, and it shows like the like creepy face. But it's a really well put together show.
Mm-hmm. It's an easy watch as well if like you want to get through it real quickly.
Yeah, you got through it quick.
It's an easy watch. Like you'll have a fun time throughout it. Wikipedia does say that the dub should end at the beginning of August.
Okay.
If the schedule keeps the way it is, so.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep up with the dub. I've been watching that and enjoying that quite a bit, and it's also letting me watch the show again, which I'm happy about.
Yeah.
God, I still can't believe there's a Sailor Moon reference in this.
It's real good. I believe we mentioned this earlier. There is a second season coming out next year.
Mm-hmm.
That's about it. That's all we know. They
did a teaser at the end.
At the end of the episode, or at the end of the season. So that's cool that it's going to be coming back. So we'll probably talk about this more next year at some point. But yeah, that is my next life as a villain. Is all about the Doom. I
loved this. I got way more into this than I thought I would.
I feel like you got into it as much as about as much as I was expecting you to.
All right. You have more faith in me than I do.
That's what I'm here for.
Or you just know me better than I know myself. I don't know which one it is.
Maybe a bit of both.
Maybe a little column A, a little column B.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man, this did it for me. This was fun.
Yeah.
And also, like anytime we're doing anything Atome adjacent, even is fun. Like Hatful Boyfriend was amazing, and it was just complete satire of the genre, but also nailing the genre.
Yeah.
And this is also a form of satire of the genre, but just really, really funny. But also, like you were saying, has some moments that hit hard that you would not expect.
Very surprising.
Yeah. Man. So, who do you think wins in the end? Who do you think's gonna?
No one. Is no one, or is one of the girls?
You think so?
Yeah.
You think Japan would do that?
Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised by it.
All right. That would subvert it. If we're not going to subvert it, I can tell you if we're going with like how canon Atome always goes, who she'll end up with.
Who's she gonna end up with?
It would be Jordo.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how Atome always goes in terms of like the canon route. Usually the first person you run into is the one.
But we are well off of the canon route.
Oh yeah, and I mean like
So.
she's an idiot and doesn't know that any of them actually love her. So
That is also a main aspect.
and she doesn't realize that she has feelings for any of them at all. She's just like, wow, you guys are all good friends. I love you all. But, you know, as friends. This is a friend ending, right? Also, a side note before we wrap up this. So, Alan's design when he's an adult is kind of edgelordy. Adult, like 15, whatever. He's pretty edgelordy.
He is.
I love it. It's so funny. But the Sailor Moon reference I think is good because she was an otaku in her previous life, so like she would appreciate that.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. That'd be cool if some dude's like, "Hey, do the Sailor Moon scene." Yeah, okay, why not? Bounding on rooftops and stuff.
Al, we are going to wrap up
Yeah,
talking about this, but I have breaking news.
Oh,
Nintendo Switch Online is just out of Donkey Kong Country.
what? Are we gonna play it?
Let's play some Donkey Kong Country. It's only DKC 1, but like it's still.
I don't even care. I want to play it. Let's play it.
Let's do that.
All right, let's wrap this up.
Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. So if you would like more from us, go to seasonlanguagecheckup.com or sac.cool. It's where you can find past episodes of this podcast and other podcasts like Season Language Checkup and Jared to Now Watch. You can also find columns and reviews on the site as well. If you'd like more from Ann Ladium, go to annladium.com. She's got columns and reviews. Read One Shining Moment on the website as well.
Yeah, it's real good.
It's still currently ongoing.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/anime-checkup. And you can support us on Patreon.
Atome.
Do what?
Yell with me about Atome.
Yell at Al about Atome.
Please.
And then you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/SAC. No. Yes, patreon.com/SACOVA. Got real confused there. Buys a slice of pizza, get access to unedited versions of the podcast, bonus episodes, all that fun stuff. Next week, we will, I don't know, talk about something.
Eh.
Also, you can play Shin Megami Tensei 1 on Japanese Nintendo Switch Online.
Oh, wow. Wild.
That is also a thing. We'll see you next week.